Whose is another relative pronoun, but when do we use it? There are two things to remember. Whose replaces possessive adjectives like my, your, his, her, etc. Or it replaces nouns with the apostrophe s or s apostrophe. Also, the noun after my, your, etc. follows whose, the noun that the person or thing possesses. Look at this example. I ran to help the woman. Her arm was stuck in the elevator. To make a relative clause from this, we use the same system as before. First write the first sentence until the noun we want to describe further. In this example, it's woman. In the second sentence, woman is not the object. The thing that she possesses is the object, her arm. So the word that refers to the woman in that sentence is her, a possessive adjective. So we replace the possessive adjective in the second sentence with whose. We write whose and the noun next to woman. Then we write the other words to the second sentence in the same order. Finally, we write the rest of the first sentence, if it's unfinished, and in this example, it is finished. I ran to help the woman whose arm was stuck in an elevator. Here are some more examples. How can we make a relative clause with whose from these two sentences? The man slept in the park, his dog ran away. Have a think. The man whose dog ran away slept in the park. How did we make that? In the first sentence, the word that we need to describe is the man. We need to know which man. In the second sentence, the word his refers to man, his dog. So we write the man, we change his to whose, then put dog afterwards, because the noun always stays with the relative pronoun whose. We finish the second sentence, ran away. Then we finish the first sentence, slept in the park. Here's another example. Try to make a sentence with a relative clause here. The engineer earns a lot of money. The government praised his bridge. The engineer whose bridge the government praised earns a lot of money. In the first sentence, we have the engineer. We need to know which engineer. And in the second sentence, the word that refers to the engineer is his bridge. So we begin the engineer. Well, which one? In the second sentence, his refers to the engineer, so we need to change his to whose. We write bridge by the side of it. Then we write the words from the second sentence that we didn't use, and we write them in the same order from the beginning to the end. The government praised. Then we finish the rest of the first sentence, and the words that we didn't use are earns a lot of money. Here's another example, but this time we are going to use whose for a noun that isn't a person. The cinema burned down. Its entrance was beautiful. How do we make that into a sentence with a relative clause? The cinema whose entrance was beautiful burned down. Look at this. We have the same example as before about the man in the park, but this time I wrote the man's instead of his to show you that whose can replace a noun with a possessive s. The answer is exactly the same. You must just remember not to write the noun with a possessive s, because whose replaces that as well. We can also use whose to replace possessive pronouns, like mine, yours, his, hers, its, ours, and theirs. And it works in exactly the same way. Look at this example. The man finished my work. I did his. In the second sentence, his means his work. We just use the possessive pronoun instead of the possessive adjective and the same noun. So the sentence with a relative clause with whose is this. The man whose work I did finished my work. As you can see, it works in exactly the same way. Let's practice. Join these sentences with a relative clause using whose. Would you like to go to the restaurant whose menu you love? The shop whose roof I can see from my window has just opened. Here it's the shop that's opened, not my window. The woman whose boss is really pleased with her received a big bonus. The students love the teacher whose girlfriend is Jennifer Aniston. It's not a real practice unless there's a joke about Jennifer Aniston. Am I right? The book whose cover is yellow is on the shelf. The girl thanked the boy whose essay was as good as hers. Or, the girl whose essay was as good as the boy's thanked him. Here we can't write whose essay was as good as his because we don't know who he is. Therefore, we need to change some of the words to make it understandable. This is another problematic subject in relative clauses, so I suggest you download the relative clauses practice sheet for whose, then answer the questions, and of course, as always, check your answers. Good luck!